This is how we've been travelling. So we've got Front Runner, which is a really good South African brand that we've been quite impressed with, which is distributed through the Expedition Centre, which is run and owned by Daniel, who is a great bloke who really knows his stuff. So we've been using these wolf packs to carry most of our gear in. Spare parts, oils, tools, that kind of stuff. The bigger cases here is all Damon's film gear, which is cutting edge because we've been filming everything in 4K, 4 and 5K. The back of the vehicle, we've set it up a little bit differently. Let me move them out of the way. So we've fitted in a drawer system. And because this is not an FJ40 Land Cruiser, it is a 1975 Series 3 Land Rover. That is right, it's not a Disco, it is a Land Rover. And it is not a Defender. It is built before the Defender. So Land Rover started in 48 with the Series 1, which went to 58. And then 58 to 61 or 62 was the Series 2. And you had the 2A. And then the 3 was from 71 to 83, I think. And so this is what this is. This is the precursor to the Defender, or the County. And because sadly they don't make a drawer system specifically for this model anymore, we went for this one here. Now it's meant to have boxes in it, but we've modified it with these pine little drawers, which I actually think works a lot better because it increases our storage space. And very easy to put together, very easy to put in. One thing I will say about the Front Runner gear, and it's both a praise and a slight criticism, is that it is quite agricultural, to say the least. Plenty of angle iron and plenty of nuts and bolts, but very easy to put together. ARB is another one of our sponsors too. So we've fitted it out with an ARB fridge, which we've strapped down with some tie down points, and everything in the back is tied down. To the side here, which you can't really see, is a pine box. Inside there we've put our dual piston heavy duty ARB air compressor, and then we've put a 105 amp hour deep cycle battery. We've also put a pure sine wave inverter. The reason why we've gone for that is because if you go for the cheaper versions, which is, I can't remember off the top of my head, they will actually damage your batteries. And we've got batteries here that are very, very expensive. And I'm talking more expensive than Duracells. So we've got that. We've fitted out with the gas bottle holder. We've used the old faithful roof rack off the Series 2 because the ARB one's very good, they're very well made, but it wasn't enough roof space for what we wanted, so we had to go for this one. But we fitted it with the Front Runner tie down point for the spare wheel, which we've then attached the spare wheel off the bonnet on top, and wolf packs, and then my ex-army space case. So we'll move around the side of the vehicle. One of the key things that I'm a real fan of is HF radio, and the reason why I'm a fan of it, and a lot of people think it's very difficult to use, it's very hard to use, you got to sit down and read the book, which isn't that hard, and not rely on YouTube tutorials. But we've gone with Icon, which a lot of people haven't heard of. And these are a Japanese radio communications company, and they produce fantastic products. I've had my 440 UHF in my Land Rover Parenti for 2.5 years now, and I've had it covered in mud, I've had it covered in bull dust, and it still works fine. They were designed for maritime use on the tugboats in Tokyo Harbour and many other harbours in Japan, and they're tough as nails. And the reason why we're going for the HF2 is once you've got a HF, you've got it for life. They're built to last, they're tough, they're durable, All you have to do is pay your subscription to a particular channel that you're after, and that covers you Australia wide. So that's why I like it. The other reason is I don't have to wait for satellites. I pick it up, I check out what the ionosphere is doing, and if you don't know what that is the upper echelons of the atmosphere, and then I can make a call. I can make a call to someone 10 meters away, or I can make a call to someone 1,000 or 5,000 kilometers away, or even in the northern hemisphere, depending on the amount of atmospheric scattering. So they are a fantastic bit of kit, and if you are looking to do outback travel, definitely get one of these. I can't recommend it enough. Now, moving along, one of the other things that we've gone for, there's a bit of a Japanese theme going here, but they are a fantastic product too, is the Toyo Tire mud terrains. Now, I've done the Simpson Desert, and I've been up through the Gulf of Carpentaria too, and I did this with my old man when I was a teenager, and we've always had mud terrains, and I've always had them. I think they're fantastic. I don't think they're bad on sand. A lot of people think that they're ridiculously horrible because they dig you in. What digs you in? Your right foot. That's what digs you in. So if you start slipping and you start going down, what do? Take your right foot off. You use a bit of this, not traction control. And that's what you do in a vehicle like this. And these are fantastic. The sidewalls are nice and thick and hard, which after the 750 by 16s, which are up there, we all went for these big fat balloon tyres, which were still 10 ply, but they were only 7 on top and 3 on the side, which was crap, because you'd get a stake straight through it. I could poke my thumb through it if I wanted to. So these are great, nice hard sidewalls. We've got these on 17 in the back and 15 in the front, because it is a lighter vehicle, and as you can see, you've just got a slight bulge down the bottom, so that says a lot. So they're a very good vehicle, very good tyre, sorry. So we've been really impressed with them, and next trip I'd go back to Toyo and I'd get a set of these mud terrains. A mate of mine who's had a lot of influence from a technical point of view on this trip is Ben from Goldfields Off-Road, which is also a sponsor of ours too. He's been brilliant, and his team at Goldfields Off-Road, in sourcing some parts for ARB, as that is what they deal with. Now, ARB as a company was set up in 1975, and they started building parts and modifying parts for the Land Rover Series 2 and the Land Rover Series 3. Now, a lot of Land Cruiser owners are probably going to turn white because they think it's all about Land Cruiser. No. In Australia, it's all about Land Rovers. Land Rovers, Land Rovers, Land Rovers, just like South Africa. And so they started making shock absorbers because they were travelling up Cape York. They started making polyurethane bush kits for them, heavy duty springs, all that kind of stuff. And this was 40 years ago. We've been able to source those parts. We've been able to source a polyurethane bush kit, which we've put in the rear of the vehicle. We've been able to source original old new stock of the Old Man Emu shock absorbers, which we've put in the rear and the front, which we've had no problems at all. And you can see from the film that we've travelled across some of the worst corrugations known to man. And I will say this, if you think you've done corrugations and you haven't done the Canning stock route, then you don't know anything about corrugations. These are something else. I've done the Plenty Highway, I've done the Oodnadatta track, I've done the Birdsville track, as I said, the Gulf of Carpentaria, I've done Cape York. Nothing in comparison to what you get here. You get them the size of speed bumps right down to ripples in the sand. Yeah. But they've handled it. They haven't overheated, they haven't broken, they've done a really good job. Now on to what Land Rover offered back in the day. We've got a fuel filler cap on each side of the vehicle. We've fitted it out with 2 long-range fuel tanks, which they did offer as an optional extra on the Series 3s, which is 68 litres. So we've got 68 litres on this side, we've got 68 litres on the other side, so we've got 136 litres if my mathematics is correct. And so what we haven't got is a fancy little electric pump to pump from one side to the other. What we've fitted it out with, you have to excuse the lived-in look, is we've fitted it out with a tap. And this tap is out of a very interesting vehicle. So I think it was 1950, the British Army started using the Land Rover, and it was the late 50s for the Australian Army. And the big conflict for us that really forged the Land Rover in our defence force was Vietnam. And Vietnam had a huge, profound impact on Australia and the conflict that ensued there for a decade or so. And these vehicles were completely and utterly modified to the max. Heavy duty springs, they had lift kit, they had dual fuel setup, dual tank setup. And so I've actually taken the lines out of an ex-Army Series 2 and fitted them into this. And that's how it would have been done. So we've done that. Another modification that we've done is we've fitted it with freewheeling hubs. Now these are power lock hubs. These date back to the 1950s, and these are literally tough as nails. Inside it, you've got two cylinders here which you rotate, and they lock into a large alloy cog on the inside, and that's all there is to it. And you've got two arrows, so if they're out, they're disengaged, if they're in, they're engaged, and that's it. And getting over the sand dunes last night, we were pumping it and didn't fail at all. Another thing that you've probably noticed is that we've got the tools on the bonnet, and these are what they call a Pioneer tool set. These are ex-Australian Army too. These are off a Series 3 I had, and I wrecked because the chassis was gone and someone had tried to put a 3.5 litre V8 in it. Don't know why. But they're fantastic, and these are Gulf War era. And it's great. You never forget your axe, you never forget your pick, because it's right there in front of you. And if you need to dig yourself out, you just take the shovel straight off. So it's fantastic. Really recommend them. And another thing, I'll just step over my swag here, because we pulled up pretty late last night, is this. And this is something I'm particularly proud of. This is an Aero Parts Capstan winch. And the Capstan really epitomizes what winching is all about. Everyone nowadays will tell you, oh, you've got to have X amount of pounds and you've got to have so much electricity going to it, or hydraulics, and it's got to be big and powerful. No. It's about the gear ratio. The gear ratio. That's what it's all about. And this winch epitomizes it. It's not a PTO. You're wrong. It's not a PTO. It runs directly off the crankshaft, so directly off the motor. And this here, this turret, you wrap around 3 times with some natural fibre rope, and just pulling on it with your own body weight, you'll actually pull the car forward. If you haven't got natural fibre rope, you can use synthetic. It's not as good. You can use chain, you can use steel cable. The versatility of the winch is just out of this world. And it uses the fundamental principle, which is tension. People forget that. It is all about tension. That is the key thing behind a winch. Tension and gearing. And it really, really epitomizes it. And the Capstan winch has been used since the dawn of time. The Persians were the first to use it in 960 BC when they were invading Mesopotamia. And it's taken on different roles ever since then. The British Navy wouldn't have been able to conquer the world without the Capstan winch. They used to have these, and they were 2 stories high, and they weren't powered by the Birmingham Special behind here, the 2.25 litre petrol. They were powered by men and beer, and they kept on going. So it's a fantastic winch, incredibly simple, and they were produced up until 1975 by Aero Parts, and then they went on to Fairy after that. So that's why we fitted it out with that too. The recovery points here are off a Series 3A, Series 3 ex-Army, and we fitted them on too, because that's what would have been available at the time also. The motor itself is a 2.25 litre, not a 2.3 litre, no, it's a 2.25 litre petrol, and it was produced in 1958, and in certain different life and strains it remained in production up until I think the early 2000s, when it ended up becoming the 300 TDI, and it's a fantastic motor. Cast iron head, cast iron block, goes and goes and goes, lots of torque. So we've kept that, we've kept the original drive line. It's got EVN diffs front and rear, which were used in a Morris trucks in the 1950s, which are indestructible. And it is a fantastic bit of kit. I won't go on too much longer, but the other thing that we did fit out is obviously spotlights, and we've got an array of jerry cans, which we sadly couldn't source any jerry can holders other through our sponsor Expedition Centre, which I'm glad we've got up there and have been very handy. The reason why we put the spotlights up there and sort of the style of the rack and that too really goes back to a fantastic series that went for nearly 20 years called the Camel Trophy. And the Series 3 was first used in, I think, 1981 for it. And this was a proper series for proper four-wheel driving and real men. They went to the worst hellholes on earth, and they used these vehicles to complete off-road rally stages. And if you haven't watched it, watch it, and it will really open up your eyes to what these people achieved. And that's why we've put the Camel Trophy stickers on there as a bit of a homage to that. And we've sort of set out the vehicle as kind of to, I guess, a bit of a kind of mimic that style. So we've gone for that, and that's why we've put the spotlights up there. And it does actually look work really well on the track, and looks really cool too. So pretty happy with that. So yeah, so it is a very capable vehicle, and it's certainly, when I bought it, it's not a vehicle that's going to break your bank balance too. So you can get a very, very simple vehicle for a very fair price, and we've been through the vehicle top to bottom. We've rewired the whole vehicle, we've replaced all the serviceable items in the vehicle too, and I think there's a lot to be said for that. If you replace all these items before you go out on a trip, what does it mean? You don't have to take as many spares, you don't have to replace as much stuff, and you can take a lot less parts, and you can take a lot more of something else. Whatever that wants to be, I'll leave that up to you. But yeah, it's made it a really good vehicle, and it's definitely one that we'll take on future trips and that too. And I think I'll leave it there.